Welcome back to the SportsMax Zone. Now, in an extraordinary move, the Guyana Olympic Association and the National Sports Commission of Guyana have jointly ceased their recognition of the Dwayne Scott-led Guyana Amateur Swimming Association. A joint statement issued on Monday afternoon by both outlined the following. It says, in the last 2 years, the National Sports Commission and the Guyana Olympic Association met with the president of the Guyana Amateur Swimming Association, Mr. Dwayne Scott, and other executives, both jointly and severally, on numerous occasions. The meetings were premised on matters related to innumerable complaints from swimmers, parents, coaches, and swim club executives. The complaints include BAS selection processes, exclusion from competitive swimming, nepotism in swimming, refusal to accept clubs as members of GASA, which meet the requirements, unresponsiveness from the executive of GASA, heavy-handed and unfair treatment by GASA, unconstitutional actions, and financial misconduct by the executive of GASA. The National Sports Commission and the Guyana Olympic Association say they no longer recognize the Guyana Amateur Swimming Association as a sport association in good standing, having exhausted all possible avenues of mediation. Now, the president of the Guyana Olympic Association, Mr. Godfrey Monroe, joins us live via Zoom to discuss this extraordinary story. Mr. Monroe, welcome to the SportsMax Zone. Great to have you discuss this topic with us, sir.
Thank you, and a pleasure for having me, Whitaker and your team on SportsMax. Truly happy to share the GOA's position on this issue. One of great concern for us, but I think it was a necessary decision.
Okay, well, you've
several factors.
Let me start here, though, because the story outlines that you've pretty much exhausted all your efforts to get things streamlined with GASA. Can you tell me, Mr. Monroe, in your last meeting, that, let's call it the last straw, what would have been the response from Mr. Dwayne Scott as the president of the Swimming Association that would have triggered this move to say, well, you could not go any further with this and the next best option is to sever ties and pull recognition from them?
Well, first of all, to say our intervention was premised on the fraternal members of the Swimming Federation and Association engaging us for a resolution as it relates to mediating in this issue. And this has been a long-standing issue, as we outlined, over 2 years and more. I think even before I was vice president of the Olympic Committee, swimming has had its challenges. And like all other associations within the region, we know have challenges. There's issues with personnel and so on. Well, we felt that this issue, there was no attempt to try to address it. And I think the question, as you asked in the last meeting, what prompted our decision was that I think it was a rehash of the same position. Mr. Scott deviating from the facts, not seeming willing to undertake a position to bring a resolution to the issue. The same old rehashing of the position in terms of not engaging with the subject in terms of those allegations that were brought to. And I think when we met with him initially, there was an acceptance that these issues were indeed real positions as brought by the members of the fraternity. And there was a commitment to address it. But a year out, as we know the issues, one with the Terrell swimmer, youngster. And a year now, there's no evidence, and World Aquatics have proven that no submission was made. The clubs being banned, players being banned. And, this situation, we believe, is untenable. One is that based on the Olympic Charter, there's the issue of ensuring that there's fair and just and transparent positions, and that, non-exclusionary measures are taken to ensure that persons are not excluded from participating in sports. And I think at every point in time, I've attended over 7 meetings with Mr. Scott. We've not been able to have an iota of our semblance of an attempt to bring a resolution to this issue. There's always shifting of the goalposts. There's always using the positions of World Aquatics, which is not substantiated. and no attempt to bring a resolution to this position.
Yeah.
And I think we felt as an executive committee that it was necessary in order to bring some sort of semblance of order and to bring some conclusion or resolution to this matter, that we take a certain or firm position in the issue with the hope that it brings a resolution.
Yeah.
So on Friday last, a meeting was held, and again, we had no commitment from Mr. Scott as to why, or an attempt that he would do to make a resolution to this position. So here we are at this point in time.
Yeah, can you just outline quickly for us the situation with Terrell? Because I gather that it was an issue of qualification to represent Ghana. Could you, for the benefit of our viewers, just outline what that issue surrounded?
Pardon, I didn't hear you in the last one, Mr. Whittaker. Sorry.
Yeah, Terrell. The Terrell story that you just
right. So Terrell is a Guyanese-born swimmer who, born in Guyana, has Guyanese parents, migrated because his parents migrated to Trinidad and Tobago. As a junior, represented Trinidad and Tobago. Based on World Aquatics change of nationality position, he's required to wait 2 years. Within that period, he had a change of heart, wanted to represent Guyana, made the application to GASA for them to have this change of nationality, to send it to World Aquatics, indicating that his intent to now represent Guyana. This was 4 months prior to completion of the 2-year span that is required to fulfill the requirement for change of nationality. And there was no movement from GASA as it relates. The Terrells engaged World Aquatics. Were told that there was no submission of an application for change of nationality. They saw the inputs of the Ministry of Culture, Youth and Sports, saw the inputs of the Guyana Olympic Association and the National Sports Commission. We sought to mediate in the issue to say, well, here it is the young athlete is seeking to represent Guyana. He's making the case. He said this is that his application is not being dealt with. Mr. Scott admitted at that point in time that it was an oversight. There was an issue relative to the secretary not handling the business, but he would have undertaken the position to address the issue. And this was maybe a year and 2 months out from this period. So we had all commitments that this would have been done, that the application would have been made, and that Delroy would have been, his submission would have been made to World Aquatics. But to date, that has not been fulfilled. And all the other series of activities that was brought by the fraternity members to the Olympics Association and to the Sports Commission, seeking a resolution. And as I said, the charter basically gives us the power, and we felt that, we should represent these issues. Now that it was tough because we don't want to be intervening into the affairs of national federations and associations, but at some point in time, if you give all the options and opportunities to bring a resolution, we think that, fair and just position and at least rational positions should be adopted in these issues. I'm not sure why to this day, and this is the question I keep asking, that this submission is not made. I asked for evidence to be provided that it was sent to World Aquatics, but to date we have not been provided anything of that nature. And henceforth we felt that it was necessary to take a firm position as to ensuring that a resolution is brought to this issue, because as currently constructed, it seems that GASA does not want to make a resolution to these issues.
Yeah, and I hear you when you say make a firm decision, and of course decisions like this has a lot of repercussions, different people are affected. So I'm going to ask, is there anything specifically that GASA was required to do that you felt that they did not do, and just to get them back in your good graces? Anything in particular?
Well, I think ultimately there's some key clause and position that World Aquatics requires. It says you must provide evidence of the person being a national, having nationality status, either parental or either born, having a residency position. There are several clauses in the application process for change of nationality. We felt that Mr. Terrell met those clauses because by virtue of being born here and representing and also waiting the period, it was a clear case, and I don't think that GASA was to be the final determinant of that. Their role is just to make the advocacy for the athlete, and if World Aquatics now says, well, then, they have an issue with it, then the Terrells or, the federation can either, further explore other options, or accept the positions or stand by the guidelines as outlined by World Aquatics.
Right.
However, that was not the case, as we've seen that no submission was made, and we don't know what is the intent. As indicated, several attempts to try to bring a resolution or force a resolution or even mediating a resolution to bring remedy to the situation have proven futile, and this is not a position that we would want to have in sport. I believe the options of the athletes' rights and those of the members of the fraternity should be heard and administered, and ultimately federation heads and associations have to be magnanimous in their approaches.
Yeah.
Even if an issue is charged or whatever, that we ensure that we bring good judgment and rationale to these positions.
All right.
So as far as it is at this point in time, there's no movement by GASA in this regard, and we've had to lay down the law to basically say, look, we're taking this stand as a key body that supports and funds and based on the charter to set the example to say, we need a resolution in this regard.
Right, and with no GASA now, what happens to the swimmers, the athletes?
Wait, I'm getting some problems with the audio. Sorry.
Yeah, so I'm asking, can you hear me clearly now?
Pardon?
Can you hear me clearly now?
Yes.
All right, so I'm asking the question, now with no GASA involved, what happens to the swimmers, the athletes?
Right. So basically, we've still allotted time for the clubs to be part of the use the access of the swimming pools. We know that this issue would have ramifications in terms of athletes being able to attend key events and so on. We will be engaging World Aquatics to say our position and hoping that they could also lend a mediation position in bringing a resolution to this situation. But in the interim, the access for the clubs to utilize the facilities are still available. We would want to ensure, even as we did in the Olympic, because this issue, as you know, was ongoing even prior to the Olympics, we didn't want to inhibit any one of the athletes who were part of the selected group to attend those games from participating in those games. So we were magnanimous in allowing that to proceed with the hope that we would have a resolution. But our interest at the end of the day is ensuring that swimming takes place, that the athletes get a chance to practice and participate and represent their country, and that the association operates on the basis of good governance principles.
Yeah, Mr. Monroe, a number of damning allegations here on the part of GASA, from nepotism to financial misconduct and other indiscretions and shortcomings, as was put in the joint release from the Guyana Olympic Association and the National Sports Commission. I do want to get an understanding from you, though, whether there is precedent for the GOA and the NSC to mediate in the way that they have in this case in similar situations in Guyana?
Well, in the past, we have done this in terms of mediating in positions where they've had conflict, in terms of bringing the association and the aggrieved members and having a sit down, ventilating the issues, ensuring that there's amicable resolution to this position. This has happened in different sports disciplines, and we've had resolutions in those cases. There was an attempt to remedy the situations, but in this instance, I'll say there seemed to be a defiant mode not to make any resolution or comply with any positions as it relates to bringing a resolution to this issue.
Yeah, and that is
ultimately we rely on the charter, and we want to set the example to ensure that our members are compliant with these principles, ensuring that there's no discrimination, that there's good ethical principles that evolve. And this is notwithstanding understanding the challenge that each federation and national association face in Guyana and by extension the region. Yeah. But like I said, the issue was that there seemed to be no movement as it relates to...
And that is fair enough, Mr. Monroe. We're time is against us, so I just want to really get through a few of these. Apologies for cutting you off there just now. I also want to get a clear understanding, and you referred the charter, but I do want to get a clear understanding that you are standing on constitutional ground here in the decision that has been made to not recognize the Dwayne Scott-led GASA administration.
Right. So principally, our position is that we believe as a key stakeholder, if we bring an issue to a national federation that is based on good governance principles, that they comply with those principles. And as I said, those are based on the charter, which speaks of non-exclusionary measures, ensuring that good governance principles is adhered to, and that associations represent and operate in the best interests of the persons who they're elected to serve.
So you are saying constitutionally you are on good footing?
Pardon?
You're saying constitutionally you are on good footing with the decision that has been made?
Yes, and I think outside of the constitutional basis for this, I think we as sports persons should ensure that things that are fair, rational, just, are adhered to. You know, if we understand that a young swimmer who is keen on practicing the sport is given the opportunity, and you know, if there's no justifiable reason for not having that, and there's always conflict in sports. You know, persons might not get to do something, but at least when there's that position outlined, at least there's acceptance and a position that seeks to remedy those positions. But if that is not forthcoming, then we will have to ensure that, you know, we take steps that are necessary to try to remedy this situation.
Yeah, and
in
as
this
I said,
instance, that is our position.
Yeah, and as I said, Mr. Monroe, we're fast running out of time, but I think this one is extremely important. It did strike me at the end of the release that you said that you will be formally engaging World Athletics, and in a way, to be honest with you, World Aquatics, sorry, in a way, I am a little bit at a loss as to why in the 2-year period that you were having these issues with GASA, you did not formally engage World Aquatics, sorry,
right.
in that period.
So that would be a key question, sorry.
Yeah.
Right, that would be a key question, but like I said, in good faith, we always felt that, you know, when discussing this issue with GASA led by Dwayne Scott, that there was a commitment to honor those positions as stated and outlined, and which was always to remedy the position. But then we always saw a shifting of the goalposts, you know, an attempt to say that a letter was required, you know, that a document was sent and so on. So we were at all times given without going to World Aquatics, because we didn't want to put it out there before we given GASA the opportunity to remedy the situation. But as I indicated, our action was premised on non-action and no attempt to bring remedy to the situation. And then the defiant issues of not being economical with the truth in terms of what the positions are. You know, saying in one instance that it was sent, but they're not saying it. Not providing due process to athletes who were banned, you know, which was a failings of GASA in the instance as outlined, all in the missive that we sent out there.
Yeah, understood.
So,
Understood.
as I said, our position basically is to have a resolution to this issue.
Yeah.
We did not want to take these type of actions, but it seems to be an ongoing position and a defined position, and the only way we think that it could do is to basically de-recognize and then ask for a resolution from World Aquatics.
And I understand your viewpoint, but I'm still thinking from my standpoint that maybe it would have been good to engage World Aquatics before this decision was taken. But I guess I understand from your standpoint, Lance.
Yeah, I just want to get one question to you before you go, because we're pretty much out of time, Mr. Monroe. I know that IOC has a zero tolerance for government interference in these issues. Now, the NSC, which jointly put the statement out with you, is a government body. Why would you not have taken this position singly as a GOA? Why invite the NSC to be a part of it when it is a government organization and the IOC has zero tolerance for government interference in these kinds of issues?
I think in the context, and a lot of organizations operate on the basis. I don't think the IOC don't want governments to be part of national federations or have interventions. There's the law of each country that governs how associations and federations should operate. I think the overreach position is what the IOC would look into to see if there's a deliberate attempt. But these are issues that are just. They're fair issues that should be remedied. And, you know, when we speak about athletes being able to practice sports, when we speak about athletes being able to represent their country, when we speak about athletes being able to, and the federation holding its bargain by, you know, making the advocacy for those athletes to participate, and that is not being done. Yeah. When you hear of all the series of issues that we've had from the fraternity, like I said, the government or the GOA were called into this based on the fraternal members of the Swimming Association.
Yeah. I get that. And Mr. Monroe, you've already outlined all of the issues that we dealt with. I just wanted to get it clear that the NSC is a government organization and IOC has zero tolerance for government interference. I just wondered why the GOA didn't go this on.
Right. Typically, there's always a line that is one that you have to tread lightly, because a lot of persons say, well, you know, if a government intervenes, then whatever. But, you know, there's the citizens of the country who want to operate, and who represents those athletes who are being disenfranchised. You know, should we idly sit by and allow the association to just do as it pleased? You know, we've sought to remedy the situation.
Okay,
you know,
Mr. Monroe,
as I indicated, this is just our stance. Yes.
Yeah, we're out of time, and it's good that you were able to come to put this story forward, and we appreciate the fact that you've been pretty candid in outlining the GOA's position on this, and we hope that there will be some pretty speedy resolution to this whole issue, because we don't want swimming in Guyana to suffer because of this. But thanks for talking to us. That's the end of the segment.
Thank you very much for the opportunity also, and that's our hope to have a remedy to it. So thanks again.
Okay, great. And we'll be back with more on the SportsMax Zone after this.